看看新闻网。
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Money Talks. I'm your host, David Symington. China's healthcare services are at the centre of a lot of citizens' concerns. Late last year, the government opened the door wide to full foreign participation in China's hospital system. And the first hospital was up and running just last month. We'll be telling you about the effects and the potential of that on Hot Chat coming up. First, though, it's been a busy week on the economic front, and here are the updates of that in Top of the Inbox.
China's economy expanded 7.6% year-on-year in the second quarter, down from 8.1% in the first quarter. This is the first time in 3 years that the country's GDP growth fell below 8%. It also marked the sixth consecutive quarterly decline. On a quarterly basis, the country's economy grew 1.8% in the second quarter. For the first 6 months, the country's GDP reached 22.71 trillion yuan. Earlier this year, the central government set a GDP growth target for the year at 7.5%. Inflation continues to ease in China. The National Bureau of Statistics announced on Monday that the consumer price index rose 2.2% from a year earlier in June, the slowest rate of increase in 29 months. Food costs made the most impact on the CPI. They gained 3.8% in June, down from May's 6.4% year-on-year growth. At the same time, the country's producer price index also dropped 2.1% from a year earlier. It was the fourth straight monthly fall for the PPI and compared to May's 1.4% decline. China's trade surplus expanded sharply in June, with exports outperforming imports. Data from the General Administration of Customs shows exports in June increased 11.3% year-on-year to $180.2 billion, while imports rose 6.3% to $148.5 billion. That put the month's trade surplus at $31.7 billion, up 42.9% from a year earlier. China's trade value advanced 8% on an annual basis in the first 6 months. This week, China cut retail oil prices for the third time this year. Starting July 11th, gasoline and diesel prices were dropped by 420 and 400 yuan per ton. That translates into a 0.3 yuan per liter drop in the price of the most popular 93-octane gas in Shanghai, and a 0.34 yuan per liter drop in the diesel price. For the first time, the National Development and Reform Commission revealed a price cut before it was officially implemented.
Just about everyone in China has stories about how hard it is to go to the hospital. The crowds, the lines, the wait. Well, there's good news for those with the money to take advantage of it. The government has now approved the establishment of hospitals that are 100% foreign-owned and operated. It could be a very significant step in the development of healthcare in China. In this week's Hot Chat, we take a look at the foreign hospitals, their prospects and their challenges.
Shanghai has hundreds of hospitals, so what's the big deal about one more opening in Shuhui district? The opening of this hospital marks a new departure in Chinese medical care. So what's so special? It's the first wholly owned foreign hospital in China. When China's economic reforms began in the 1980s, foreign money began pouring in. But the door of the medical services market was totally shut until the country joined the World Trade Organization. Beginning in the year 2000, the government allowed up to 70% foreign investment in joint venture hospitals. But that was all, until new regulations were issued by the National Development and Reform Commission last December. The Landseed Hospital was the first to take the leap after 10 years of running joint venture services in Shanghai. Those investments paid off, and the company began to make money 2 years ago. It was only natural to want to take the opportunity to expand.
这个医院总投资的是3000万美金。等于2亿多的这个人民币吧，我们预计要2到3年以后才能够达到损益两赔，主要投资回报大概要8到10年。
Following Landseed, at least 3 other foreign hospital companies have handed in their applications to open business in China. Wu Ping, the national leader of healthcare industry services at Deloitte Consultants, says the barrier to wholly owned foreign investments was the last big boundary keeping foreign money out of the China healthcare market.
作为合资来说呢，它有一定的好处，包括一些市场进入的便利啊，以及现有的一些，比方说医药销售网络这些的利用。但是呢，它也有很多坏处，比方说在管理上的掣肘，以及在利益分配上的一些争议。那么我想就是说，这两种方案都是可以选择的。但是目前看来呢，投资者呢，比较多就是倾向于选择那个独资的。
Landseed Hospital echoes this. Sole investment simplifies the decision-making process, such as equipment purchases and budget planning. Shanghai has 30 joint venture hospitals and clinics. 16 are general hospitals, while others specialize in centers dedicated to dental care, ophthalmology, and OBGYN. Experts predict that following the new policy, we can expect that more high-end hospitals, specializing in areas such as cardiology and chiropractic diseases, will bring advanced medical technology to the Chinese market.
有一些医院他们外资的，他可能是会做一些专科医院，比如说是想做心脏专科的。那么这些呢，我感觉对我们公立医院将来还是有一定的竞争的，这个压力的形成一定的竞争。因为如果是这样的一个外资独资，比如说美国独资的这个专科医院、心脏医院的话，那么它会带来最好的技术，那么最好的设备。最好的理念，而且围绕这样的一个疾病群，那么它又派生出很多，包括从预防、医疗以及康复全程的这样的一个这个服务。
Foreign money is so interested in Chinese market because of the country's growing population of expats and high-income Chinese. But for foreign investors, is the road to China really as easy as it looks? Foreign hospitals say the shortage of human resources is now the biggest problem holding back their development.
Foreign hospital managers say the way they recruit in China is pretty much the same way other foreign companies recruit in China, using headhunters and public notices. Right now, 80 to 90% of doctors at foreign-run or JV hospitals are foreign professionals. It's the combination of international experience with local familiarity that's so hard to find.
Our customers want doctors and professionals who have gone to some of the best schools in the world, who have come from the very good experience, very good organizations. They're fluent in Chinese, so communication is not a problem.
Tan Chuen, the vice president of Shanghai East Hospitals, points out that human resources are the key to deciding whether a hospital can operate properly.
在一个普通的企业里边，人力成本只占到10%几，但是作为一个医院来讲的话，人力成本往往占到20%几乃至30%几。结论只有一个：医院是一个劳动密集型的一个地方。另外一个，除了劳动密集型之外呢，医院还是一个高技术、高智商的密集处的地方。所以说，人力成本就成了办医院要素里边的最大成本。
And for foreign hospitals, labor costs are even higher. They can take nearly 50 or 60% of their running costs. Foreign hospitals say they need to pay an extra 20% bonus to foreign doctors to attract them to work in China. That can take the salary of a foreign doctor earns here to around 100,000 yuan a month. And even with salaries that high, foreign hospitals say they're having a hard time with recruitment. Landseed gets help from Taiwan.
我们60%以上都是台湾来的资深主治医师，20%到30%是国外的医生。但是我们发现，如果在台湾自己没有医院能够支援能力，实际上是做不好的。
So here is a question. If hiring foreign doctors is hard and expensive, why not hire local doctors? The hospitals are working in China after all. Foreign hospitals say they are willing to hire local doctors, but most local doctors don't want to work there.
Foreign hospitals say hiring local doctors would be a good way to cut their running costs. The salary of local doctors is usually at least 40 to 50% less than that of foreign doctors. At the same time, the number of local patients is growing very quickly, so hiring local doctors would also help to better serve local patients.
上海有非常多的高端人士，他也需要这样的医院，所以我们经过这10年的服务， 我们的经验，因为后来我们服务的对象已经不是台湾而已，还有这个境外人士。后来我们才发现，真正有很大量的需求是本地的高龄人士。实际上，我们小儿科50%都是本地人。
But the problem is that few local doctors want to work at foreign hospitals. Other than health centers run in partnership with local hospitals, such as the Huashan Worldwide Medical Center or the Shanghai East International Medical Center, most hospitals with foreign involvement have less than 20% local doctors. And interestingly, most of them only agreed to work at foreign hospitals after retirement. Local doctors say a higher salary is indeed very attractive, but it's not good enough to make them move from the best local hospitals.
是顶级医生所在的医院或者是单位，往往是一个我们称为之大庙的一个好医院，比如说中山、瑞金、长海、华山等等，无一不是集教育啊、科研啊、医疗都是非常高水平的医院。
Staying at the bigger Chinese hospitals, which have the resources for medical research and personal development, remains the aspect that top Chinese doctors value most. The opportunity for academic research that can reinforce their professional medical credentials is just too great. Tan Juan admits that while working at foreign hospitals gives local doctors more access to advanced technologies, facilities, and drugs, China's large public hospitals provide them a professional platform that foreign hospitals cannot duplicate.
他要教育更多的学生，让他们有能力去给更多的病人服务。他有研究成果，让这个成果呢使更多的病人能够享受到这种福音。所以说，这种更大的能力呢，只有建立在一个更好的平台上。
This is in direct contrast to the economic profits that are the ultimate goal of most foreign private hospitals in China.
Usually in the West, in Europe or America, you have private hospitals, you have public hospitals, and you have teaching hospitals. Usually a teaching hospital is where most of the research is done. But for most regular private hospitals and clinics, they are in the business of just delivering health care to people. They're not in the business of doing lots of scientific research. So we are that way. We are small and we are focused on delivering health care to patients.
Many say that suggested multi-practice licenses to permit doctors to work at several hospitals at the same time could be a solution. If multi-practice licenses are widely used, local doctors would not have to give up the resources they have in public hospitals, while still being able to earn some extra income. The country did open this license category in 2010, but foreign hospitals say it hasn't worked out so well. It's 2 years since the policy came out, but so far, the Ministry of Health has only received some 100 applications.
对人职业的推行如果能够的话，那当然会产生很大的效用。但是因为三甲医院他们自己人力也不足，病人又那么多，所以这个基本上是比较困难。
Public hospitals say the reason the government issued this policy is to encourage doctors to visit small hospitals and hospitals in rural areas, so that patients there could have a chance to see top doctors from big hospitals. So naturally, they're more supportive of the multi-practice applications if doctors are applying to go to places which lack medical resources. In addition, public hospitals point out there are no detailed regulations regarding accidents and disputes. Who will be responsible for doctor's social insurance if he works at 2 or more hospitals at the same time? One emerging solution is that foreign-owned hospitals are allowed to form partnerships with local hospitals.
实际上呢，现在有很多有外资背景的医院呢，因为它没有足够的能力构成一个独立的完整的医疗体系，它现在往往与很多医院签约，它利用所在医院的设备、人员的实力呢，来作为一个后盾和补充，来开展它的医疗业务。
Lanseed says that it's also the best solution they can come up with, for the moment. They have formed such partnerships with several public hospitals in Shanghai. They say that although they're having their problems, they want to be the first foreign hospital to become a mature player in the Chinese medical market, and that when the market itself matures, they can be the biggest winner.
So 10 years ago, we had foreign hospital firms forming joint ventures with Chinese hospitals, and now we have foreign hospital firms forming partnerships with Chinese hospitals. How much has the situation really changed, despite the new, more open hospital investment regulations? Here to talk about it all with us is Michael Sui, GP from WorldPath Clinic International. Dr. Sui, you've been working with foreign hospitals for nearly 14 years. Now, from that perspective, what do you think is preventing Chinese doctors from joining foreign hospitals?
One of the reasons is just, the way of a practice. In Chinese hospital, Chinese doctors always see a lot of patients per day, 30, 40 patients per day, versus international hospital, 10 patients per day. So Chinese doctors think this is an inadequate practice to chances to practice.
Right. Okay.
And also, in terms of their payroll, if you say more patients, that your salary will be bigger.
And what other things do you think Western hospitals should be doing to create a better environment for Chinese doctors and give them a sense of a career path and a more stable career?
I think foreign hospitals should not only focus on the clinical medicine, they should extend their research and the teaching capability. Most of the Chinese doctors valued the teaching capability. They want not only the clinician, they want to be the professor, they want to publish the academic papers in the renowned magazines. This is very, very important, rooted in their very early medical education.
What about the prospect, though, of recruiting fairly fresh graduates just out of medical school in China?
That's possible, but at the moment, no. Most of the doctors working in the foreign hospital are experienced doctors. Foreign hospital is now serving the high-end Chinese population and expatriate. Those group of population are very demanding for the quality of care. Like resident doctor, junior doctors, they cannot guarantee to get the one shot to take the blood.
Right.
But they will get the complaint from the foreign hospital.
I see. Thanks very much, Dr. Sui. Here's our corporate correspondent, Wang Lihuan, to fill us in. Good evening, Wang Lihuan.
Thank you, David. Good evening, everybody. The Fortune Global 500 list for this year is out, and let's take a look. 73 Chinese firms made the list. That puts China #2 on the list and ahead of Japan for the first time. The biggest Chinese companies on the list are state-owned energy and utilities companies, hardly surprising, Sinopec, China National Petroleum, and State Grid, which grabbed the 5th, 6th, and 7th spots. Only 5 private Chinese enterprises made the list, but that's 3 more than last year. Making the list for the first time is Zhejiang-based car maker Geely. Anglo-Dutch energy giant Royal Dutch Shell retook the top spot, knocking off U.S. retail titan Walmart from a 2-year reign. Fortune said the top 500 posted record revenues of $29.5 trillion, up 13.2% over 2010. Their total profits rose 7% to $1.6 trillion, which is roughly the GDP of India. And moving on, Hebei Iron and Steel Group, China's largest steel producer, have been given the okay by the country's top economic planning body to invest in Canadian iron ore developer Alderon Iron Ore Corporation. Hebei Steel said in April that it wanted to invest about $195 million to gain a near 20% stake in Alderon and a 25% interest in Alderon's principal asset known as the Kami Project. The deal would also give Hebei Steel the right to buy 60% of the annual iron ore production from the Kami Project, which has a reserve of about 1 billion metric tons. The expected annual output from that is 8 million metric tons after production starts in 2015. The deal is part of efforts by Chinese steel producers to gain more control over foreign iron ore supplies, which is currently dominated by a handful of global mining firms. And China Hyundai Automobiles resumed its Hong Kong IPO plans this week. The Shanghai-based company set a price of 6.6 Hong Kong dollars for 254 million shares. Just after the launch Thursday morning, the share price fell below the IPO price and barely climbed back to 6.62 Hong Kong dollars at the close. This is a much smaller IPO than the company had shelved a couple months ago. In May, Hyundai set a price range of between 7.6 Hong Kong dollars and $10.8 for a sale of 312 million shares, but later decided to scrap the deal due to deteriorating market conditions. Hyundai has over 60 full sales and service locations throughout China that sells vehicles including BMW, Audi, GM, Toyota, and Volkswagen. And that's all for this week, David. Now back to you.
Thanks, Li Huan, for the update. Are you a discount shopper? Who hasn't stopped by an outlet shop from time to time? These days, you can often even get a deal on last-minute air ticket bookings. So, what about a deal on last-minute hotel bookings? Yes, you can do that now too. Let's talk with the man who figured it out on Lightbulb.
Millions of people rush into Shanghai every day, many of them often with the same question in mind. Where can I find a nice yet affordable place to stay? But for some, when the magic hour arrives, they can perform a little smartphone magic. This app, called Hotel Tonight Specials, can find hundreds of hotel rooms going cheap after 6 p.m.
这个其实有点像是那个大家平时在街上看到蛋糕店、面包店，他们晚上6点钟就开始写说全场的面包打5折，就是因为面包明天就过期了，所以今天打5折赶紧卖掉。我们也是一样的概念，晚上6点钟之后，酒店发现哇，我还空了这么多房子，那就拿一部分打5到7折拿到我上面来卖掉。
30-year-old Mars is one of the founders of the company that developed Hotel Tonight Specials, a cell phone app to book last-minute hotel rooms. The average occupancy rate of hotels in China is around 65%, which means most of them will have empty rooms at the end of the day. Customers who book on the app can pay when they arrive at the hotel, or through mobile payment tools. Mars says their business model offers more than a win-win situation. Hotels can rent empty rooms, customers can get great discounts, and his company makes a 5 to 10% commission on each deal. So far, it seems to be working out for everybody.
我真的能吸引客源，其实就是酒店的一种销售方法。酒店如果就是出去做广告的话，它也要花费。如果我们就搞这种优惠活动来吸引客源的话，其实这种是无形的广告了进。
他那些空房间本来就是卖不掉的，所以给我们卖的话就是卖掉一间是一间。那么可变的成本多服务一个客人，其实只是多了一套那个牙刷，然后多洗了一套床单和毛巾而已，花不了几个钱，几十块钱足够了。所以相当于酒店多赚了200块钱，所以酒店来讲还是非常合算的。
Selling last-minute hotel rooms may sound like an easy business, but in fact, it involves a lot of work. The company has developed a computer program for hotels to update each day, registering how many empty rooms they can provide to the app. If a member hotel doesn't provide that information by 5 p.m., company staff have to give them a call and input the information themselves. For example, if a hotel has 10 rooms for Hotel Tonight Specials, they'll often register 12 or 13 rooms in the system, because there are always some customers who book a room and then don't show up. But then if they all do show up and there are not enough rooms for them, the company has to come up with a rescue plan.
我们跟酒店谈的协议都是免费升级，如果酒店更高级的房间也没有的话，我们会帮他安排附近的更高级的酒店，然后让他入住。如果这方面的入住酒店那个客人不满意的话，我们会赔付客人。
So far, the company has signed deals with more than 3,000 hotels in 14 major cities in China, with their active usage exceeding 300,000. And that's in less than a year. Mars says they're doing even better than they expected and that he expects Hotel Tonight Specials to continue growing.
Like other hotel booking, apps now imitating Hotel Tonight Specials, business travelers are their biggest customer group, 50% or so. Jiang Xinjie is a loyal customer who enjoys the cheap prices, but who points out one other big advantage of this way of finding a room. It's perfect for the business traveler who isn't sure where their last call may be on a day, and so who don't want to book a room too early only to find it's in the wrong place.
特别是我们去北京啊、去广州啊，这种大的城市，因为你对当地情况不熟，你在北京东四环和西三环之间差距就很大了，北五环和就非常非常大。那你还得打个车，打个车的钱都不知道多少钱，然后何况那个交通又这么堵，对吧？所以说就是就在旁边有很好的酒店，而且价格比你想象的还要便宜得多，而且你到店就能入住啊，那我觉得还是非常非常好的。
In addition to travelers, Hotel Tonight Specials local users easily account for the other half of their customers. Mars says this percentage is far greater for his company than other mobile tool apps.
同城消费里面又分2种，一种是那种同城的娱乐性质消费，比如说闺蜜约了一起去聊天，这个我们发现是个大需求。我自己之前在设计这个产品的时候，完全想不到世界上有这个需求，闺蜜开房聊天，然后有那个看球，有那个打完在外面喝完酒然后去打3国杀，然后有那个看完演唱会大家一起去继续 party 去闹，所以奇奇怪怪的这种同城消费需求很多。然后另外一半呢是那个情侣消费。
Mars figures that while 3,000 hotels is good, 30,000 would be even better. And he admits he needs more cooperating hotels to solidify his position in the market. Meanwhile, there are more and more similar products coming onto the market. How can one company with a good idea guarantee its survival against clever imitators?
The idea has worked so well that many of China's large booking agents, such as Qunar and Elong, have picked up on it and are starting to offer similar services. Mars has thought that through, though, and he's convinced his market is safe.
比如说携程、翼龙来讲，这个东西做得越好，对于他们的主营业务伤害越大。他本来是卖正价的商品，顾客愿意进来买800块钱一间酒店卖得好好的，他突然跟他讲说，咦，隔壁家有一家只卖400哦，今天打折哦，那别人买了400块的走了，他的销售额降了一半，他的利润降了一半，对他是百害而无一利的好的事情，所以他这块会做，但是他绝对不会有很强烈的意愿去把它做好。
So far, Hotel Tonight Specials has gotten 20 million yuan in investment from venture capitalists. Their aim is to expand as quickly as possible. But other reservation services are beginning to fight back.
虽然这个对于酒店是最有好处的一件事情，但是对于原有的销售渠道，他总会觉得我是把他的那块蛋糕给分了一块，所以他们就会做2件事情，一个就是看我签了什么酒店，他们就会签什么酒店，而且尽量让酒店给他们，比如说谈一个更低的价格或者怎么样。
Big players like Ctrip and Elong refuse to talk about whether they're worried about threats from the new booking channel or to discuss how they will react to the new competition. Hotel Tonight Specials says their defense plan is to establish good relationships with big hotel groups which cannot easily be influenced by competition between booking agents. However, many big hotels have their own reservation teams, which in many cases bring as much as 80% of the hotel's total revenue. Many are not interested in joining any discount system at all, because last-minute customers create management problems.
Hilton will never engage in a method of selling that way, because then a lot of people will be waiting till the last minute. It does not augur well for planning, and it also does not augur well for customers who plan. Because in terms of our planning, then I wouldn't know how many housekeepers I will need to have the rooms cleaned, how much breakfast we'll need for the next day.
So the market Mars is going for may always be limited. And there could be another challenge ahead of Hotel Tonight Specials. At this June's e-commerce industry summit in Shanghai, experts predicted that smaller players will have increasing problems getting investment capital in the near future, because the overall investment in e-commerce industries is cooling down.
目前的这个环境里面来讲，资本的这个取得相对来讲比较容易。你今天只要有一个 idea， 你觉得做得不错啊，其实这个风险投资马上就找上门了。但是从2011年我们就开始讲说，2012年是电商的冬天，然后这个各个报道媒体啊也在讲说，就是说资金链好的一个重要性。那终有一天，尤其在现在海外市场这个融资相对来讲比较困难，正在这个风头上的时候。那相对来讲，资金的一个紧缩啊，包括这些风投他们愿意去投出去的这个金额，跟他们投资的一个谨慎度啊，都会对这些目前在这个市场上的一些 player 有一些直接的影响。
Mars and his team, of course, still have that 20 million yuan in venture capital investment. His challenge is to make that money last long enough and spend it effectively enough to claim a solid chunk of the market before the money runs out.
A good idea and good implementation, is that enough to guarantee the growth of a new company in what is, after all, a limited market? We'll see. As we say around here a lot, money talks. Commentators this week are not happy, even when they can agree what's going on. The Financial Times' Wolfgang Munkau looks at the latest European Council meeting and wonders why they even bothered. The Council endorsed a banking union as the way to solve Europe's financial problems. But Munkau points out that Germany immediately said that couldn't happen without a European political union. The logical implication, he says, is that we won't solve the crisis for the next 20 years. The banking union that is required, he says, is one that Germany will not accept, one with central regulation and supervision and common deposit insurance. Munkar writes that if a problem is neither sustainable nor self-correcting, there are only two possibilities. Start preparing for a way for it to fall apart, or wait patiently until it does fall apart. The latter, he says, is the strategy being pursued by the European Council and by alcoholics. Back here in China, with consumer prices down in June, many commentators have been raising the spectre of deflation. The New York Times' Keith Bradshaw reports the latest figures show consumer prices dropped 0.6% from May to June, the biggest drop in 2 years. But, predictably, the experts can't agree on what that means. Either whether the figures do indicate China is entering a period of deflation, or, more fundamentally, whether deflation would be a good or a bad thing. Michael Pettis, professor of finance at Peking University's Guanghua Business School, thinks deflation may be just what the economy needs. Bradshaw quotes him as saying the disappearance of inflation and even falling prices would help rebalance the economy towards consumers. Well, speaking as a Shanghai consumer struggling with grocery bills, I know I'd be happy for a little rebalancing in my direction. Estimates say the total value of Chinese cartoon and accessories market will be over 3.2 billion yuan this year. If you'd been at the 2012 China Cartoon and Games Expo that kicked off in Shanghai this week, you wouldn't be surprised. Original cartoons and costumes, plastic action figures, the show was full of it. Now, look at those cartoon action figures while we take a close look at what they're worth on this week's Bling.
Saint Seiya, One Piece, anyone you could think of. These little figures are just the tip of iceberg from the 2012 CCG Expo, but a must-have to all cartoon fans.
今天是买了500块钱左右。今天买的2个是它一个会场限量的，就是暂时是外面买不到的嘛，所以就是一早就过来排队嘛。
Why the attraction for all the fans? Cartoon model kits are dedicated to making the best copies possible of the action figures in the cartoons themselves. The kits became popular in China during the 1980s when great numbers of children's cartoons began to be imported from other countries. Transformers, Saint Seiya, as well as Tekkaman Blade, if you're keeping track. And eventually the figures and the kits became popular with adults who had the money, the time, and the interest to make them and collect them.
比方说06年的时候，我们这个圈子还不是非常大，变形金刚的迷友也不是非常多的时候，到07年，由于变形金刚第1集真人电影的上映，一下子就是带动了远远超过我们原先那个迷友的一个数字加入到我们当中来，让这个市场也一下子就是以爆炸的一个方式来增长。
A good model kit does not come cheap, however. First, they're produced in limited numbers. Experts will tell you the molds for the models can be used no more than 25 times without becoming distorted and changing the appearance of future castings. Obviously, the first castings command a premium price. In addition, a good model requires high-quality plastic, which can cost as much as 300 yuan per kilogram. And the experts also pay a lot of attention to the model's facial expressions, which should reflect the character in the original cartoon story. Some figures are sold completely, but most commonly they're sold in parts for the buyer to assemble and finish.
一般来说，评价一款12寸的玩具的质量好坏就是头雕。这就是那个 Anthony Hopkins 的那个，几乎是完全还原他的一个面部的一个表情啊，各方面的一个轮廓。一家好的12寸厂商的一个实力体现就在于它的设计师，头雕设计师。是整个玩具的一个灵魂的一个部分，头雕。
In addition to a skillful design, a one and only one character always offers a higher value.
目前在我手里的这个是2008年美国博特康会场发出的一个紫色邪恶擎天柱，美国人对它作为了一个新的界定，就是一个平行世界的一个平行镜像世界的一个邪恶的一个人物，这突破了就是原来我们这些粉丝对于擎天柱是一个大正派的一个概念。而且它限量是仅只有1000个左右，所以这些年来随着迷友玩家加入，人数越来越多，1000个显然无法满足，所以它的价格是备受热潮。 已经突破了4000元了。已经，当时我买来只有300人民币左右。
The kits generally fall into two kinds, flexible figures and sculpture. Flexible ones are usually offered by two Japanese companies, Bandai and Takaratomi. The American company Hasbro and Japan's Kotobukiya are big names for both sculptures and flexible models. However, the prices can vary significantly.
那我们以卷心金刚为举例，一般情况下呢，同样的新产品会分2种，美版和日版。美版的特点是比较偏向于大众化，针对的是儿童市场，它的做工往往没有日版那么精美。它的涂工的就是上色啊，各方面金属漆啊，都会相对来说比较粗、比较少。那它的价格呢，也会比日版比较低。一般情况下，同样的一款玩具，如果是日版和美版比较的话，价格一般在1比1.5到2之间。
For super fans, price is no object if you're talking about their favorites. But if you're looking to make a little money, you need to keep the market in mind.
当一款美版玩具在沃尔玛啊，或者说反斗城啊进行清仓的时候，那这个时候就是一个从投资角度来说最佳的一个入市的一个机会了。采购到一批这方面清仓的一个玩具，因为不可能会有比它更低的一个市场价，就是等于说是你逢低入市了。等到一定的时间之后，那我们俗称就囤货了。到了一个年限之后，它的价值就会直线往上升。
Other models can sell out quickly, which means there are not many left and collectors can get higher prices for them. American models, for example, are seldom reissued, which means they have better investment value. And since any toy depreciates in value after being opened, anything left in its original box will be all the more valuable. Items like that can appreciate to 3 to 5 times their original value in just a few years. So figure. One of the most expensive items at this week's show was expected to be a PG Strike Freedom Gundam. And if you know your Gundam, you won't be surprised by the current price, 2,750 yuan. Times 5, that's 13,750 yuan. Not a bad markup if you don't forget the box.
That's Money Talks for this week. We hope you've enjoyed it. If you've got anything you'd like to say about the show or any comments, drop us an email. We're at moneytalks@icshanghai.com, and it would be really great to hear from you. Good night and good weekend from Money Talks.
Like everybody else everywhere, Chinese workers look forward to taking it easy after their retirement with their pension. But hold on, the Bank of China and Deutsche Bank both predict China's pension funds are short of money, a shortage that will reach over 18 trillion yuan next year. The government, however, says there is a 1.9 trillion yuan surplus in the fund. Who's right? Can China afford to retire? Tune in to Money Talks on July 21st at 9:15 p.m.